Yes.
emerging OTT streaming startups, fundraising, investment challenges. We have on the panel Mr. Nitin Narkhede. He is representing the Alley. It's a OTT startup. We have Tushar Kansal, who is representing Kansal Ventures, Consultancy Ventures, representing an investment banker, fundraising advisory. We have Ali Fidvi, representing Reflex. They're into startup investments, a family office-based outfit. So let's start the discussion for the fundraising investment challenges. Let's start with Nitin. As a startup, what are the challenges you face? You're, I think, raising fund now with the new emerging ideas, models. Go ahead, start your introduce yourself, and you can start the.
Right. Hi, good evening, everyone. Hello, in fact, if people are joining from outside. Um, I'm a partner at the Alley, and we are developing. Basically, we are a small startup, and who is basically ventured into developing its own OTT platform. We are differentiated in a way that we, for some parts of our work, we use blockchain on the backside as a technology, which enables us to kind of do the distribution in a very differentiated way. Um, in terms of services, we give basically the entire gamut of services where we allow people to kind of build their own platforms on top of it. Being a platform play, we do not basically own the content. So we offer our platform in a SaaS model. We basically also allow people to kind of create and upload the content on the platform, and then and at the end we basically allow them to distribute it in their partner networks. So these are the three offerings which we basically are actually doing on Addy. As part of my journey, in fact, it has been little difficult, to be very frank, as a startup, in platform space. If you are trying to build something on not on content and only on platform, the way of looking at a startup completely changes for a VC, right? And most of the value is for them. It is coming from the content, and the content folks are basically kind of looking at raising funds from the market rather than the platform plays. Now, there can be two ways of thinking, and we have been kind of analyzing this. The first could be that being a platform play, you are still a SaaS play, right? But you are still a differentiated SaaS play because you do not compete with the consumer-led SaaS plays, right? Where your returns could be possibly be around 70-80%, right? And from a transaction. Whereas in the OTT, where this I mean, many basically panelists actually mentioned about how complex is the technology. Bringing it all together and making it work in a tandem. You have a huge cost to basically run a technology, which is and which basically shrinks your margin, despite of being a SaaS player. So you are constrained by in basically looking at a platform which is a SaaS play, but which is basically delivering you a smaller returns on the transaction. Right. So that is basically one challenge which we as a startup is looking at. The second is, of course, it is being in India, a product play like this is of a significant, is a challenging play, right? A challenging option. The reason being there is people understand only two models. One is basically content play, where you are basically mobilizing content, acquiring content, and delivering it. And the second is if you are just a platform, then you are considered as a smaller, startups or smaller shops, which basically offers it at without really looking at the technology at the way it should be looked at, right? I mean, so great points raised by Sumit earlier, and basically other panelists, where how the compression technology basically can increase the quality of the service, right? How basically you can actually, how analytics can really change the game. All these things basically we do in a startup. We have spent a lot of money in doing a research and bringing to a table a solution which is basically highly scalable and to our to a record. Basically, when we launched our big platform, we did something like there's this platform called a Spark OTT, and it on the first day of it, we did 14,000 concurrent transactions on the platform, which talks about the scale, which talks about the performance and stability of the platform, right? We had almost 200,000 downloads on apps that day, within 10 hours. So, from a technology perspective, I think we have achieved a lot with respect to what we have developed. But the point here is that if we do not develop the entire system, if we do not invest in developing that system, then we cannot deliver the class of quality or the quality that is being kind of looked at by the larger players. Now, so the whole point here is it reduces your ability to basically fetch these large customers, because they are also looking at startups. And the question raised by VCs most of the time is basically, will you be able to service these kind of clients, right? I mean, and basically what kind of basically the traction which you will see in the market in future, with respect to winning of these kind of clients. Now, so it actually as a valid question, but my point here is that we have proven it on the technology, but we still are kind of struggling to kind of convince a VC that there's an enormous amount of value in the tech, and the scalability can be a factor of basically pushing in resources for sales, marketing, advertising, basically people running around looking for more accounts and stuff like that. So as a startup, I definitely see that there's a challenge with respect to, on one side, the funds become a challenge and we cannot actually scale up our teams, scale up our abilities to market, and scale up our basically ability to do further research. But having said that, we did adopt a lot of open source, and which basically brought in a lot of ability for us to kind of sustain and basically compete with the larger players. So a blockchain-based distribution, and I haven't heard about in this session people talking about distribution, and no one actually mentioned about blockchain. So probably it is a very niche, very experimental area in terms of the technology used. But one of the reports, if you see, there are many reports which are talking about how blockchain and AI will shape up the future of OTT and the video streaming as well. And I'm happy that we are ahead. We are looking at distributions basically to be enabled in a micro distribution way from the content owners, and trading their rights to people who really want those content to be played on their platform. So these are some of the basically challenges, despite of building a platform, despite of developing a technology which is forward looking, which is future oriented, which is basically really doing things differently, right? In ability to build up a scalable model. We do see challenges and basically resistance from VCs to invest in the startups.
Yes, Nitin, I think you have shared your point of your challenges, looking at the opportunities for the future. So, Ali, you tell me, as an investment principal of a family office, if an OTT startup, what are the benchmarks you look at investing in? What are the investment challenges you foresee?
So I think it's a very relevant topic for discussion. So what I will initially do is I'll start off with the challenges, which online content and distribution companies face, and therefore, if they have those challenges, then it applies to us as investors as well, right? Because to that extent, our destinies are linked. Uh, See, a lot of this has been covered in the discussions prior, but I'll still give you highlights. First is that India is a very heterogeneous market. We don't have a single product like what some of the other developed nations do. We have a country with diverse demographics, which means that our OTT consumption is also quite heterogeneous, and mostly it is based on regional preferences. So the first thing which we look for in any startup, and that's a challenge, right, is whether there is the right content and whether there is a right channel to monetize it. Now coming on to the whole monetization piece itself, in terms of how are you going to go about monetizing. Is it an advertisement-led video on demand model? Is it a subscription-led video on demand model, or is it a pay-as-you-go model? Now here, what we see is, I mean, if you look at how OTT platforms have over time, built up and scaled, they have predominantly used, advertisement as a primary monetization model, and that over time has helped them, attract users and build substantial user bases. However, what we are also seeing is that there has been an increase in content. Some of them are also kind of come out and made exclusive content to differentiate. So it becomes difficult to just justify a business case with advertising as the only source of monetization. Also, with the growing inventory out there, what we are seeing is that there's a downward pressure on advertising rates. I mean, as recent as maybe 2 3 weeks ago, I was reading an article about where YouTube was mentioning concern about seeing a dip in advertisement rates. So that's primary concern as far as ability to monetize via advertisement. Now, if there is a subscription-led model, then India is a very price-sensitive country. There are also various OTT platforms. People spoke about a bit of saturation there and so on. And then you also have alternate sources like traditional media. There is a TV. The content fragmentation is there, and somewhere there's also a consumer inertia as far as adoption. And then people also spoke about bandwidth challenges and so on. Now, to add to all this, COVID has also created a bit of a complication where content creation for some of these smaller platforms has been an issue because lockdowns have affected life that way. Now, these are the broad challenges which we look at or rather face when we evaluate investment opportunities. Now, in terms of benchmarks, what we look for clearly is three segments. One is content is king. So how relevant is your content, and what kind of a model do you have? Preferably, we'd like to see a hybrid of the AVOD model, and within the AVOD model also, we'd like to see some of these companies integrate with brands and produce content. So to that extent, you don't have an issue of an upfront investment in content creation. The brand to that extent underwrites it, and therefore, depending on the ROI in terms of views, etc., some of the companies can monetize and therefore de-risk. So that is one thing which we look for as far as the model goes. The second model is that we also look for very smart subscription-led arrangements. A lot of companies which we see also tie up with telcos as bundling services. They tie up with some of the OTT platforms where they make content for them on an ROI basis. So that's something which is exciting for us. And then if there's a marginal use of pay-per-use as a model, then that's something which we look for as well. So that from a content perspective, you're de-risking. The second most important thing is the content technology per se, in terms of how people look at getting the right content out for the right set of audiences. I think that's where technology can play a key role, not just in terms of creation, looking at data trends, but like what Nitin was also mentioning in terms of distribution, where blockchain could be another key enabler, to get to those micro markets as far as content creators are concerned, and also on the distribution side. So that's something which we look for quite closely. And then the third piece is on the monetization in terms of distribution. So we like to look at again a combination of own platforms and smart partnerships with websites. Where you create those interesting business models and de-risk. Today, one thing which we look for in some of these companies is that while you are creating the right content, the monetization model at times does not come out very clearly, both in terms of the way you are packaging it and the distribution model. So those two, I guess, would be a key challenge from an investor's viewpoint. I also have some solutions, but I'll let Tushar first express his view, and then maybe we can take it from there.
Yes, Tushar, as an advisory to few of the startups in this space, How do you see, what challenges you face as an investment? How do you advise them?
Thank you, Rajan. It was really great to hear Nitin and Ali on the various investment aspects in the OTT market. I see a lot of upsides in the OTT market, and opportunities, and of course the incremental challenges which keep on coming. The first thing is that, as Ali said, the regional language content that is growing very fast. So the regional language internet users, they are likely to grow to 536 million by this end of this year. And when it comes to streaming, as usual, the from a country perspective, India is all about Bollywood and cricket. So this is best represented by which players are leading the two wings of the streaming market in India. We have on the video streaming side Hotstar, which rose to prominence with the buying of the IPL rights, and on the music streaming side, like Ghana and Savan, which dominate the ever-growing popularity of mainstream Bollywood music. Geo's advent, with the advent of humongous amount of data consumption and the lowest data rates globally, that has led to a data boom, and that has led to OTT markets riding on this data boom. And smarter devices have come in, and increasingly more and more smarter kind of devices are projected to be launched at lower and lower price points. The way Google is launching a smartphone for the masses in partnership with Geo. And a lot of investments are actually coming in to the regional language market. And Indian media consumption is growing 9% CAGR, and it's almost 9 times that of US and 2 times that of China. The challenges there are broadly from a investment thesis kind of perspective. The first challenge is misunderstanding the audience. So you really need to know what they are watching and what they might want to watch. And either sometimes there is too narrow a targeting, too much of a niche, and otherwise sometimes somebody enters a niche which is already overcrowded. So misunderstanding the audience is one. Then using the wrong technology. So if you are not on cloud, then you will be outcompeted by other players who are using smart technology, especially the cloud. The third challenge we see is showing the wrong content. So it's basically almost the same thing, but we not like Ali said, not utilizing business analytics. And just as we used to call it big data, it provides valuable insights to the content library and what the content library can be. The fourth is offering a poor user experience. So if people are so much used to Netflix at a very cheap price point, that their user experience has been refined over the years to be ultra efficient, like connecting consumers with content very swiftly, employing personal recommendations, exemplary use of interface design, and seamless support across multiple platforms. Just to sum up, one more investment challenge which I see is catching a bad wave. So, transactional VOD, for example, was considered to be the next meta trend, but it has been outperformed by subscription model. In India, as Nitin said, we are a very price conscious market, and we are also a market which takes time to take a decision. We do a lot of research, and we talk to people. We understand the price points. So catching a bad wave can prove very costly for any investor. So, services aimed at the 3D market and the VR market have largely underperformed. And once, those focused in on esports, they have grown rapidly. And one of the other investment challenge which I see is uh, to manage the expectations. So you can actually achieve success in subscriber numbers because the numbers are so big in these markets, especially India, China. So you can achieve success, but still you can be killed off because the internal expectation was so much higher amongst the subscribers. And I think advertising and subscription led video streaming services are, I think they are losing almost 30% of their annual revenue to piracy. And MX Player said that their content is watched via illegitimate means by at least 15 to 20 million people on a regular basis. So this loss in ad revenue is a also a big factor behind the negative profit, or rather a loss numbers of number of OTTs. Thank you.
Yes, Nitin. So, what's your next level plans? Like in terms of customer engagement or overcoming the current fundraising challenges, or next level engagement of customers. What do you plan to do? Or
Right.
any other fundraising models you have in plan in mind?
Right. So, Rajan, I think being in blockchain, being basically able to tokenize the content, we have a play there, right? I mean, so we are basically looking at, so we'll be launching NFTs soon. We are already, and with a difference, right? With a in a very differentiated model, where we will also enable micro distribution using the power of community to basically distribute the content. And so we'll be using the principles adopted by NFT. Incidentally, in NFT, we actually did my first experiment in 2018 with the micro distribution model, where we had 15,000 users basically experience it, and it worked well. And that is now termed as NFT. So the focus here will be, can we actually hit the crypto market? Basically for with the services that we are offering in terms of utilizing or using the technology, the crypto, basically to the advantage. That is definitely one thing which we believe that could be a extremely scalable model. Consider it for micro distribution for content or for payments, right? I mean, so it could be reducing your cost enormously as a basically content provider. It will give you a very, very good ROI with respect to the content that you develop. And all these are very, very useful points for people who are making small films. I mean, small budget films, not small films. So basically, there is a huge amount of community basically who makes films between 1 crore and 5 crore or 8 crores. This is a big bracket, and then there's an most of them are into running into losses. Can we provide them opportunities to basically look at exploring the market in a very, very different way, not in the traditional gatekeepers world kind of distribution environment, but they be the owner of the content and then they have the ability to distribute it themselves. With that kind of a thing, we are actually trying to approach the crypto market. We should be basically be looking at raising or basically looking at raising capital from the crypto. But from a VC perspective, I think we have been speaking, and the constant feedback that we were getting was basically when there's a traction, we could possibly be interested. But and there's a significant amount of traction which Ali has already shown right at this point of time, being a startup with having very, very marquee accounts at this point of time, very big accounts, and there's an enormous amount of pipeline which they have projected as part of their 3 years roadmap on the OTT. So being a video distribution player, we are not focused only on the films and media, but we are also looking at education, and of course, which would possibly give us an ability to kind of scale up very quickly in providing our very, very personalized scalable services powered by the blockchain. Now, that is basically my immediate focus, is to basically look for funds who can possibly understand the tech and the scalability, ability to basically see how scalable this can be. going forward. So that is our main focus. That is our next objective, to basically build models which can be more beneficial to the smaller players, medium scale players, and see if we can possibly penetrate the market with that kind of an offer.
Yes, I think your point of view, you're right. I mean, you're trying to develop a model which can build traction in the investment. Ali, what is your point of view? Everyone is looking for traction. Even startups want to build up traction. Investors want to look into traction. What is the traction number of customers they have? So, how do you think these startups can build traction?
Sure. No, I think it's a good question. Also, really appreciate Nitin's and Tushar's insights prior. There's a complete beat of mind as far as our thought process is concerned. I mean, the basics still remain, Rajan, which is that smart content, good distribution, and great partnerships, right? I think those are the three basics of how any OTT platform evolves, be it a content provider or a distribution provider. What I'm also seeing as an emerging trend, and I think this will play out in the future, is also a bit of gamification. One or two speakers earlier did speak about it, where you create IP in terms of certain content, either you do it yourself or through partnerships and so on. And then after that, you create those characters, like how a PUBG is being played and you have certain characters there. You have a World Wrestling Federation where you have certain characters like an Undertaker or a Kane or anyone of those sort. Create those icons, like an IPL has a MS Dhoni, or a Pollard or anybody of that sort. Create those characters, come out with gamification on top of it, because that helps you capture the whole 12 to 20 age group. And I think that's a fascinating age group to go after, because those guys are only online today. They're only using digital as a means for entertainment. The 18 to 25, maybe 30 age group uses other means as well. But the 12 to 20 age group, I think, is the age group to go after, especially with the gamification, because one is that you create a longer engagement, they identify with the offering, and also there is scope for monetization. And the unit economics work very well because you don't have a fixed model there as far as content creation is concerned. Even your distribution to that extent is fairly easy. And once you have that going, then the stickiness and all of that is very positive. So I think as an emerging trend, gamification is one concept which I look for, as a add-on to what startups do with content and distribution. I think that's going to be a game changer, going forward. And like what Nitin was mentioning, I think the whole technology piece is also going to be very important, because that needs to be utilized, one, for creating the right content, and also monetization as far as the distribution is concerned. So those two I think are the key concepts which at least I look for whenever we look at new investing opportunities. I think those will be a game changer, going forward.
One,
Yeah, we cannot hear you, Tushar. Um,
Should I speak, Rajan? Or you were saying something? Okay. No, you are on mute,
I
Rajan.
will refresh.
Yeah. Uh, okay. Should I speak, Rajan? Yeah,
I,
you can speak now.
yeah, I guess.
Yeah, you can speak now, Raja. Okay.
So I think, Ali, in the meanwhile, you made up a great point there about the partnership models, right? And I think we the entire platform and the entire model for us is built on the partnerships. So we, with every account that we are looking at, we are always looking at what kind of partnership that we can do, and it is not basically our subscriptions are not like monthly subscription. We put
Correct.
our we put our skin in the game, and we tell them that when you make money, we make money, right? I mean,
Yes.
so there is that's a model I think which is working well, at least in India.
Yes, then because it helps in de-risking, right? It's a variable model in a way where both the content provider and the distribution platform wins. And if you are able to integrate that with a brand, then you're even further de-risking it. Because what today brands mainly complain of is that even though they go through advertisements on digital media where they're able to target specific audiences and so on, but the audiences don't really pay attention to the advertisements which come in between. To them, it's a bit of a nuisance as well. So if you
Yes,
have content which people can resonate with, have an entertainment quotient out there, plus the brand also gets some mileage, then that's a win-win for everyone. And I think those are the kind of
absolutely.
partnerships which
Yeah,
some of these companies are working on, and I
right.
think that's a good model to go after.
Yeah, and
Because
we are basically also looking more participation coming in from the corporate world, from the industry, basically. So it's not nothing to do with media, but basically from the corporate world, I think they are more kind of keen on kind of adopting to this kind of a technology, which actually gives them a absolute clarity, transparency of in real time in terms of what is happening, how it is, how the content is being consumed, all the analytics around it.
no, that's a very good point, Nathan. Yeah, that could be another model as well.
Yes.
Sure.
Sorry, Rajan, we were just using that time.
Tushar, yeah, Tushar, I want actually it was a technical hitch. Tushar, do you want to share how these startups can build traction for
Yeah.
making it investment ready? Because that's what the investors are looking for. At a
Yeah.
low cost engagement model. I mean, we could say you can tie with MS Dhoni, but it's very expensive. The brand is expensive. So these are the low cost model. How we can do it? How they
No,
can.
Rajan, I'll just come in here. When I said MS Dhoni, I said to create a character like him and
I
gamify it.
know, understood. I mean,
There's no engagement with MS
But
Dhoni there.
it's
As
it
soon as
still
you
requires
get MS
royalty.
Dhoni as a brand ambassador, I'm going to get out of that call.
nowadays people can go in for influencers. There are a lot of influencers.
Yeah.
Who
Nano
are
influencer.
channels.
What I was referring to, Rajan, is gamifying characters and then coming out with new characters so that the audiences can, relate to them.
Yeah,
Just thought I'll clarify.
model
Sorry,
is
Tushar, you go ahead.
Yeah, I think sports, thinking of like MS, these sports companies, they have an advantage. So, Amazon, Netflix, and Hulu, they saw saturation, but Disney plus Hotstar continues to see gains. And I think what will happen is a aggregation will also happen. So the more niche and small players, OTT providers, they will need to aggregate. And I think VR and AR will also play a role. Regarding Rajan's question about how can these smaller players use less money and scale up, and any those kind of strategies. So as we were discussing earlier, uh, today is the time of nano influencers. I mean, we get to see nano apps, and anything has a potential to go viral. I mean, if you are using surrogate marketing, or you are using different growth hacks, you can actually make use of the technology easily available off the shelf, and increase your numbers. How you monetize those numbers is a separate strategy, and how you get the numbers is a separate strategy. So I am very positive about this space, and because this entire space is essentially digital, it relies on data crunching and machine learning and artificial intelligence. So I think there is a large role which technology will continue to play in this sector, and that's where the opportunity for investors also lies.
Yes, yeah, I know. But like community based, he's planning a community based, built up. That's also a good idea. It's a low cost model, like that. Or even reward based NFTifying. He's NFTifying the model. That's also a good idea if you can come out with. Basically, they are looking for some rewards. These customers, if they want to engage,
Yeah,
they may be looking for. That's the way we can also engage. More traction. That's what I
yeah,
feel.
yeah. I mean, it is
Right.
as Tushar mentioned, right? I mean, you have to play the trends wisely. I mean, you may get some right, some wrong. 3D did not really pick up, right? And even AR and maybe we are experimenting with something different, community-led distribution. If it basically clicks in, then it could be the first and the biggest success. I mean, because it has a ability to really penetrate and do basically explode just with the help of a community.
You could also using your existing customer base with collaborating with brands and influencers, some sort of way you can
Right,
build traction too. Yeah,
but that
So
also requires
that is
money.
the best idea.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so France TV, they were using technology to extract and publish highlights in almost close to real time conditions on their social networks, and the amount of mileage which and the fan engagement which they were getting is phenomenal. So I think social media is of course a natural way for advertising and monetization of a lot of this content.
So
And
finally,
also, see, a lot of these channels are today in silos. I think over time, what will happen is that these networks will start talking to each other. You will find a lot of cross-selling opportunities where one will leverage on others' strengths and so on. And there, tech will again play a key role
yeah.
in terms of bringing all of them together. So that's something which is also very exciting, like what Tushar was saying about social media being one of it. But I also see other facets of the whole online piece coming together. There was some mention about aggregation as well,
Yes.
and this is one of those ways, right, where you necessarily don't have to kind of combine all these entities and merge them, but there can be working partnerships, and I think those are critical.
And
Uh,
personalization of experience,
yeah.
that is a big theme for the consumers. So improvements in OTT technology which enable video to be streamed in broadcast quality, with platforms like RDK and Android TV. So look at this Jordan's movie called The Last Dance,
Right,
and it has streamed to 24 million families all over the world. And
right.
so that kind of an access internet provides. And the next stage in universal internet is going to be OneWeb and Starlink and the Virgin Atlantic's low orbit satellites which will beam the internet. And once that kind of internet reaches the remote corners of the earth, um, and already people are so hooked on to screens, I think so getting more people in won't be that difficult.
Yeah, and that's why partnerships come to the fore, right, Tushar? Like, you could be sitting in an Ola app, and traveling and still getting access to content. And that's where you have to be ubiquitous. One of the earlier speakers mentioned that, saying that you have to be in a way present everywhere, and that comes in once you are across the ecosystem, be it vendors, be it social network, be it companies, be it brands, be it your nano influencers and so on. So it's the whole wide ecosystem and your ability to play across, I think, I think that's going to be the next big thing.
I have a question here, if
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Rajan, you may allow, right? I mean, so most of these are again content-led stories. I mean, I'm saying, is there an ability for a platform, kind of a, let's say, is there a way to build a next Vimeo, right? I mean, platform stack,
Ali, is there a way to build?
next Vimeo, right?
Okay.
A platform-led story, right? I mean, they are out of content, right? I mean, so there's an, I mean, do you think that there's a scope of a platform-led story, play?
See, there is.
Uh,
Yeah, Ali, please. Yeah.
no, definitely, Nitin. There is because there are specialists right across the whole ecosystem. So there are guys who are very good at creating content. They have all the necessary skills, but they don't have a good distribution platform, and therefore the ability to monetize becomes an issue. Some of them attempt to do it themselves. Some of them get into partnerships with brands and co-create. Some of them get into partnerships with telcos, bundle services, and so on for their own platform. And then some of them get into partnerships with other websites and all of that. So once the content is created, it is the platform which takes it out to the end consumer. And like someone earlier mentioned, that Netflix and Amazon Prime are more engineering companies because they have first created the technology and the platform, for distribution, and then after that, content came through. So that's the key, in terms of also solving some of the India-specific challenges, right? Where you have issues in terms of bandwidth and so on. While Geo and the revolution has done its bit, but there is still a lot of work to be done there. So if there is a bit of compression technology which can come to where users can access with low bandwidth. Somebody was also talking about having features of downloading and then watching later, where in the Western world this feature is more as a convenience, whereas here it's more a necessity because otherwise you will not be able to watch the content continuously. So those are some of the challenges which platforms can actually solve for. But what platforms need to be mindful of is the unit economics in terms of how does it work as far as scale and profitability goes, because that would be key, for an investor coming in.
Right. So, but generally, the platform plays will be unit economic positive, right? I mean, so for example, we are unit economic positive, right? I mean, the investment doesn't go into the content, right? I mean, it is purely the
It
revenues.
is purely distribution. So yes, you are right. It is purely a unit economics model. It's more, I would look at it more as a sweat asset, right? Where you've created a platform and you need to keep sweating it. The more you sweat it, the better it is for you in terms of getting to unit economics. So yes, you're right. It is a very, very easy ROI-led kind of a business model. And there's not too much of variables there, which in a way is good for an investor as well,
Right.
because it makes it easy in terms of assessing it.
Okay, time is up. Let's summarize. Start with how do you plan to sustain and grow, Nitin? Let's summarize one liner. How do you
Um,
sustain, plan to grow?
so my major focus is on partnership and basically attracting basically investor to see that there's a model which can grow on partnerships and not on content, right? I mean, so that is my core mantra to basically move forward.
Ali, how do you see these startups can come out and how they can sustain and grow?
No, I think I agree with Nitin. It is all partnerships first, also content, and then third, using technology to ensure that you have the right content for the right audience. So that's the only thing which I'd like to add. Otherwise, what Nitin said is absolutely critical.
What about Tushar? Your point?
I feel that again, it's wise to go on with the trends rather than fighting them.
Yeah.
So anybody wanting to throw big money in creating new markets and creating new adoptions for the consumer, it is wiser uh, to do what the market wants you to do. Go regional, go data analytics, and ride on all the trends. So that is my takeaway for this today.
Yeah.
So I think it's time. It's right time at the pandemic boost. Right now, the pandemic times, it is giving a lot of boost on OTT. People are sitting at home watching, using mobiles. Watch movies or films, and even using for education for their kids. It's the right time to build up um, education and right time to build up traction. If there is an opportunity, you have to make it investor ready, and a lot of investors are no actually they have a dry powder they can invest in. They are looking for light traction. Going for even you said NFT, it's a good model. You can go in for tokenizing the project. It's a good model. Even if you want to, if you got a good revenue, if your valuation is good, you can go for a SPAC model, launch it in the US market. That's also another value. That's a big ticket.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of opportunities we can always utilize. It's everyone to take it up how you want to take it up, how they want to play a role. So thank you for all of you sharing your insight. It was a great discussion. Thank
So,
you,
Thank you.
thank Ali.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Rajan.
Look forward again.
Thanks, Nitin. Thanks, Tushar. Thanks, Rajan. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.